Welcome to the ultimate Parasite on the Disney Empire. In this documentary, we're going to be talking about a lot of what's going on behind closed doors. But to do that, we got to start with the roots. Roy E. Disney and Walt would both grow up as brothers, being abused by their father. Apparently, one day, Roy told Walt to stand up to his father and, basically tell him to stop abusing him. And overnight, apparently, he changed his mind and didn't touch him ever again. I find that hard to believe, considering it takes a 180-degree turn of repentance to not do what you've been doing in the past, which is very rare. And really, the only way for that to really happen is to give yourself to the Lord, which was not his case. So I find it doubtful that he just one day decided to stop doing the abuse. The thing about the Disney brothers is that Walt grew up. People have mentioned that worked with Walt and been around Walt until his death, that he had a temper, and that he did a lot of tried to relive a lot of his childhood growing up. Constantly yelling at employees, had alcoholic beverages on him all the time. This rags to riches story really is just kind of more of a good example of what it's like to sell your soul and be a charlatan, someone that is manipulating others to gain fame and wealth. In the early films of Disney in the 1920s, you can see children skipping school, stealing from stores, and not to mention witchcraft, the occult aspect, if you will, of witchcraft and the Demolay boys. We're going to be talking about the Demolay and where it came from, Jacques Demolay, and how it's basically just the Freemasons for the youth. One of the things that I've got to bring up is that, I saw Dr. Scott Johnson's study on Disney, and I really liked it a lot. I think he's really cool. Not much for listening to pastors and stuff, and he's not a pastor. He broke away from the congregations and whatnot because of the 501 tax forms and the corruption in the churches and their tax evasion tactics, used often also in the Royal Jesters and Shriners and the Masonic Brotherhood, which all falls into play with Walt Disney. In 1993, Disney filed an appeal against child pornography on the internet, and this bill was for not having child pornography, pedophilia in the internet. And basically, Walt Disney appealed it. They appealed it. They apparently want that kind of thing on the internet. And I don't know about you, but I agree with Dr. Scott Johnson, man. I could just stop this study like right now. Don't even have to go any farther in my book. That's, someone being for pedophilia, child pornography, does not go hand in hand with Disney cartoons, you would think. But it fits quite well when you look behind closed doors. We're going to look, at the esoteric meanings that are right damn smack in front of you, with subliminal messages that can be triggered through audio and visual content. This describes Disney cartoons and movies to a T. Appealing a bill that's going to pass to where there's no porn for children on the internet, I think is a good idea, but apparently Disney doesn't share that belief. We're going to look at, and it wasn't just Disney that did that, there were other companies that were appealing it with them, like Miramax Films. Miramax Films is owned by Disney, which is Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett owns a lot of companies like Geico and Dimension Films, Miramax Films, all your Highlander movies and stuff like that comes from this man. So let's take a look at some research on Disney and get into some of that right now, and we'll look at our tools here. But what really caught me, also was in 1941, a bitter animator strike. These animator strikes, it occurred. Led to the rise of labor unions in motion pictures, as in other industries such as Screen Actors Guild, and you could go on with this as well. Although Disney artists were the best paid and worked under the best conditions in the industry, there was a disconnect. In the early days of the studio, Walt Disney gave 20% of the profits to the short cartoons and his employees as bonuses. However, Disney suspended this in 1936. During the production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, because although many of the employees had given Disney large quantities of free overtime during the drive to complete Snow White, the studio staffs had grown to an enormous size, and it goes on with that. Well, what's interesting about this particular piece of history in 1941 is that Rockefeller, a young Rockefeller, okay, he actually talks to the president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, at that time. And what's interesting about that is he had Roosevelt settle the strike while Walt Disney was in South America working on a project. And when he came back, he basically just conformed to the powers that be and went ahead and gave into the union and accepted the mind control that they got for him. And that's, this is all documented public record. It's a matter of public record. So that in itself I found was really interesting for that. And so guys, I wanted to just kind of elaborate more on Rockefeller. This was Nelson Rockefeller, okay? This guy, one of the Rockefellers, an elite. Need I have to say more? I mean, he served as an administrations of the presidents Franklin D. Roosevelt and Truman and Eisenhower, okay? And he's the one that convinced FDR to settle the strike going on for the animator strike. And Walt Disney decided to go ahead and conform to what they wanted to do instead. And you can read all this down here, and it's pretty interesting when you look at it. Taking a closer look at just this saying right here with caricature, however you want to say it, he ended up depicting Mickey Mouse as a caricature of himself, as we're going to get into a little bit later here. Within the caricature, we've got many different forms with deities would help with the characteristics or the exaggeration of an individual, bringing out those characteristics through caricature and anthropomorphism. So there's a lot of training research tools that you can look at here on that stuff, and let's take a look at it right now. Alright guys, so looking at caricature, coming out of the words right out of quotes from Walt Disney himself, is a rendered image showing the features of its subject in a simplified, exaggerated way, as we kind of talked about a little bit, which is a lot of Disney characters, not meant for fiction but real life, and we see that a lot with Disney cartoons. But what caught my attention was the anthropomorphic, or pomorphism, which is the attribution of human form of other characteristics to anything other than a human being. examples include depicting deities. Now these are gods, and we'll get into the mythology behind that here. To form and ascribing human emotions or motives to forces of nature such as hurricanes or earthquakes. Yeah, so that's a big part of caricature, is it not? It's, you know, it's in there. So looking at, you know, things like the Greek mythology, if you will. Okay, let's take a look at Greek mythology really quick here. We've got Io, which was a woman, a beautiful woman in Greek mythology that Zeus was intimate with, cheating on his wife Hera. Now Hera was the wife of Zeus. She was really, well, she was a jealous woman, or deity, if you will. And she basically kept a white cow slave. So what happened was Zeus was going to see Io, this beautiful woman, and put cloud cover over so that she couldn't look down and see what Zeus was up to. Well, she went to examine this, and he turned her into a white cow. She's like, what a beautiful white cow, can I have it as a pet? And he's like, okay, what's he gonna do, say no? So she becomes prisoner, and make a long story short, Hera has, Argus was this hundred-eyed watchman that had 100 eyes on him, and was guarding Io. And basically what happened was Zeus had Hermes, which was a messenger of the gods, and was also the god of storytelling, play music on his reed pipes. And I mean, that sounds like the pipes of Pan, if you ask me. The reed pipes, he would be Pan playing his music, luring you in like sirens, or the Little Mermaid being a siren, or Peter Pan being Hermes in Greek mythology. And this is taken right from him playing his pipes and everybody in Neverland being all mesmerized by Peter Pan having such great abilities and his, you know, talents, if you will, fighting Captain Hook and playing music on his pipes. And what happened in the story in Greek mythology is that he played his pipes until Argus fell asleep, the 100-eye watchman, and then Hermes proceeds to cut off his head, a lot like Medusa in Clash of the Titans. So you've got her basically, and make the long story short, you know, she gets transformed back into a girl, and there's a lot of murder, deception, lies, cheating, not being loyal to your partner. There's a lot of stuff in the story that's just, Greek mythology is filled with Luciferian BS. And so that's basically what you got as far as that story goes. Well, mythology is a big deal in Disney with Peter Pan, the Pipes of Pan, and the story goes on, and I mean, you got all these different things with noise. Now, another thing also about Io is that they name a lot of their mythology stuff from, a lot of the heavens were named after mythology. Io is a moon of Jupiter. It's the innermost of the 4 Galilean moons of the planet Jupiter. And it gives you dimensions and stuff like that. Well, you gotta understand, in Greek mythology, they named a lot of the heavens off of their deities from their past, these fallen angels and demons. And Rome did the same thing, just with different names. They copied Greece across as they, you know, had Poseidon would be the one that was god of the sea, and so a lot of your Greek stuff crossed over into Italy and Rome and other parts of the world. Just thought I'd add that in there. It's relevant to Walt Disney. You can see the caricature here of Walt himself. Someone probably drew this. And a lot of the features of Mickey Mouse actually derives from Walt Disney himself with the caricature, as well as a lot of the other characters here. You can see a lot of the villains the caricatures of the villains. And even the one up there, second from the top by Captain Hook, you've got Maleficent. In the new movie with Angelina Jolie plays the witch there from Snow White, Maleficent, and it's kind of a depiction of that there here. And he would try to relive his childhood. A lot of the people around Walt would tell you that he tried his best to relive his childhood. He was always drinking, and he'd even have a bad temper, a very bad temper. Yeah, once a man has tasted freedom, he will never be content to be a slave. Now, this is Walt admitting that he has now become one of the NWO, the Illuminati, if you will. Yeah, sure, you don't want to go back to the lifestyle that you had. That's the same lifestyle you and I have. And you know he's in the bloodline right here. Disney, right up there, you can see him. He's in the Illuminati bloodline. And then many infrastructures that the Illuminati has within it. And why would you want to go back to living a simple life, not having money, not having fame, not having all the cult, 666 in front of your stores, and being able to make cartoons way in advance that is relevant to today, like Prince William. And his wedding was identical to, the old Cinderella, the old Disney cartoons there. And how can that be even considered a coincidence? That's the magic behind the Magic Kingdom. Many good books. James Rowland's Bloodline. Also, Matt Arker is good, Arker is a good one. And as well as my favorite, Fritz Springmeier, The Bloodlines of the Illuminati, has good information on there about Disney even, especially that last one. You can see the Demolay boys, the G with the compass. In the order of the Demolay boys, Demolay being from Jacques Demolay, a mystic in the past of the Templars and Free Masonic, the Masonic order. You can see Walt here dressed as he is in the Demolay. You see, you cannot be in the Demolay order without a Grand Master. A worshipful Grand Master from the Freemasons has to be present during the order of the Demolay. Well, he's not a Demolay boy there, everybody. He is a Freemason right there. You see, the order of the Demolay is for the youth Freemasons. This was what he was involved in, and he helped pioneer some of the lodges for Demolay and encouraged it in the youth, as he shows that, and I'll prove it because he shows it in one of his Mickey Mouse cartoons. So I mean, there's really no more to really say about that. He's part of the Brotherhood, and there's no denying that. Period. Any of the postcards, a lot of them have the Demolay signatures on there, the symbols and whatnot. If you read that down there, actually read it, you can see that the chapter or the order of the Demolay in Kansas City there at the bottom. Mickey Mouse, anybody? I mean, come on. And, there's a lot of famous people. You'd be surprised to find that they're part of the Masonic order in one way or another, a sub-society or in the actual Freemasons. I mean, the higher levels would be Freemasonry. But you got your Freemasons that don't have a clue. Well, these guys are elites. I mean, they're, one was our leader, for crying out loud. So at one time with Hoover there and his gatherings of the FBI and all that jive. The order of the Demolay was very important to Walt Disney, and he felt that he would incorporate that into his cartoons, sometimes in a subtle way, other times not so subtle, but Mickey Mouse has many cartoons and depictions of that with the double A as we get into Mickey Mouse here in the next topic here. But the Masonic Order, I mean, it's very easy to see that it's a part of Disney, and it, like the Mormons and a lot of other big, Disney Empire is obviously bigger than Mormonism is. It's a worldwide, agenda that helps speed the agenda of the New World Order. So, with that said, we can move on past this demo A. On the website there, under construction, always asking you to go through the loopholes only if you have certain passwords. And a lot of times the passwords used were Mickey Mouse to get into certain areas. Things that Disney owns or has shares in, as well as these little clip here. I mean, you can see these Job's daughters with Walt there and the checkered design he's holding there with the cloth and whatnot. Looks like a yin and yang was in there too. And this picture just kind of reminds you the fact that they're for transhumanism, just like the Mormons are for transhumanism as well. And they show that with their money trails. They trace their money trails, but right damn smack back to corporations and companies with these big time bankers sponsoring transhumanism, like Rockefeller, the Kissingers and whatnot, and the Bilderbergs. Club 33, secret entrances is all I'm going to say. If you are a Freemason, you're in the Brotherhood, you can get your pass into New Orleans Square there in Disneyland and be able to go into Club 33. 33 meaning the 33rd degree Freemason that Walt was, as well as the symbolic number 33, which can be all added up back to 1111. There's a whole code there that can be broken. I suggest the Groxed 1 channel on YouTube if you want to know more about breaking the code there for 33. And you've got the California Adventures was an expansion of Disneyland, which is across the entrance to Disneyland, and all that land was purchased and used for their California Adventures. Now, I've been there. I've been in a lot of the rides, the roller coasters and whatnot. Disney World, a lot of the grounds here, you would think their excuse, Disney's excuse for underground cities or passages, is that they are next to water at Disneyland in Anaheim, that there's not enough ground there for them to work with. And that's totally bogus because, well, technology and digging technology, if you look into it, has been used for a long time. And I'm telling you, man, it's, they got ways around that water thing. So don't let that fool you. Barack Obama right there, raised as a Muslim. Mickey Mouse and the order of Mickey Mouse. Let's talk about the ears for a minute here. The psychological extension of your own ears is a form of mind control. People are drawn to power and having abilities, rather they're magical arts or whatever it is, physical prowess of some sort. People are drawn to power. The idea behind it is to separate the family unit. The Mickey Mouse Club, rebelling teens or children. Walt targeted the child and the adult, and the child to become a childlike adult. This is not bad in itself to be childlike at times, but it holds you back as an adult. And the occultic roots of Disney is to have an adult act as if there are no consequences when it comes to the behaviors of, of his own creations. You see this. Donald Duck in the cartoon Corn Chips, 1951. Here's the Order of the Demolay I was telling you about earlier. This is the clip from Disney comic. And I mean, yeah, Chapter of the Demolay. Sticking the tongue out there. I mean, the face is crooked even, and he's laughing at it. I mean, it's like like the tongue of Kali, like Miley Cyrus, tongue hanging out. The Hindu goddess, if you will. Yeah, no doubt this picture's got a lot of truth to it. The entity's whispering in his ear to make him create certain aspects of Disney characters and whatnot. A lot of times you can relate Mickey Mouse with, MK Ultra, the Mickey Mouse Club. MK Ultra is something that got brought over from Germany in World War II, and Operation Paperclip. And you can look about that. You can look that up, or you can also watch my first Ultimate Parasite video on public schools. I get into Project Paperclip quite a bit on that. And the caricature of different people inside these fictionist characters that have non-fiction characters in them, making them caricatures, kind of breaking the rules, if you will. Later on in the video, we're going to look at the demonic influence and the possession of demons in this cartoon right here. The Pipes of Pan, if you will. And the orchestra. Kind of a sinister picture here on a t-shirt with his hand in his pocket, kind of looking away. I'm sorry, man, but when I look at this, I think of a guy kind of going ahead and playing a little pocket pool, and that's exactly what he's doing. I mean, there's no doubts about that. He's looking at someone like this, and she is another one here. Ashley Tisdale was part of the Mickey Mouse Club. And the MK Ultra really gets a hold of them a great deal. They don't know what to do with their programming. So to fight off their programming, sometimes they get memory flashes of what happened to them when they were under or possessed. They'll rebel and shave their head because they know it's harder to program them if they don't have any hair. The demonic influence behind Mickey Mouse is, it's crazy. I want to talk a little bit about Cinderella programming. Children associate death and violence with wholesome cartoons. This is a deception. The cartoons work so well that it wouldn't even have the same effect in real life or a real life movie. Natural disasters, such as the natural disasters you see in Ice Age movies, you can see how his characters are handling this natural disaster in an unrealistic manner. Laughing, joking as the world around them is completely deteriorating, and somehow in the cartoon, the unrealistic aspect behind the plot unfolds, and you're watching this thinking that, okay, it's kind of a cool piece of entertainment, and those thoughts get put in your head, thus creating different outcomes and possibilities in your own mind with indoctrinations. So the marketing with toys and soft drinks and everything would be a part of the MK Ultra. And of course, you can see how these people are turning out. Christina Aguilera is a high priestess. She has graduated, as well as all three of these people. Of course, Britney, she had a little bit of a setback with her breakdown. It's just a matter of time before you get them all with, guys like this Baphomet person, Justin Timberlake. Timber as in the Hellwood trees. And Selena Gomez and Miley Cyrus. So, that in itself is just, well, it's downright ridiculous. In 1943, Donald Duck does an SS Hail Hitler and Donald is portrayed as a communist. Songs When You Wish Upon a Star were meant basically for programming. If you think about the words, it makes sense with what I'm saying here. You know, Miley doesn't know who she is anymore. She's so overtaken that she left the building a long time ago. Selena Gomez is just working in the mild porn now. Her movie, I'll talk a little bit more about it with the movies aspect of this video. And shaving her head was a different reason than Britney Spears. Miley's embracing all of this. She's getting a kick out of it. She goes around, and you know, she's only human though still. You know that deep down she's crying and her soul is gone and she's lost, and it's sad, but do what thou wilt is the attitude of a lot of these Disney films, you know. And I'm gonna go ahead and talk about Selena Gomez after all here. She did a movie called Spring Breakers, and for those of you that don't know, Spring Breakers is kind of like a mild reality porn, if you will. It's got a lot of nudity, a lot of sex, a lot of drugs, a lot of lifestyle of partying. And, you know, James Franco's kind of like this pimp kind of character that does what he wants with the women and whatnot. And she's telling you here, it's alright, it's okay. Well, is it alright and is it okay? Deep down, she's hurting. I don't think we need to get into much more details than that, but you know, Britney Spears is back on check doing the X Factor with Simon Cowell, and Ryan Gosling, you know, he's was raised in the Mormon Church, and that went hand in hand with his MK Ultra and his Mickey Mouse Club roots. Skull with Mickey Mouse. She's wearing that shirt to kind of let you know some things, I think. This, I mean, need I say more? This was a ritual. A lot of rituals are done now on TV and music awards and whatnot. There's a lot of satanic rituals. Angelina Jolie portraying Maleficent in the new movie The Witch there in Snow White, becoming what she worships right there. Need I say more? So guys, here's kind of what I wanted to get into. In 1941, right around the time Nelson Rockefeller helped Walt Disney with this animator strike, the studio begins making morale-boosting propaganda films for the United States and during World War II. And basically, when you look at the research behind this, you can see that the government actually paid Disney $80,000 for 2 training cartoons. And what's crazy about that is that, well, it cost Disney $72,000 to make, and Disney also made some secret films for the military. Mickey Mouse and Goofy had war themes in their cartoons. In 1941, a Goofy cartoon called The Art of Self-Defense and How to Be a Sailor. In 1944 was a sailor one, and Mickey Mouse has been used for passwords in our government, especially for the D-Day invasion. And Mickey Mouse was the password used by millions of allies on June 6, 1944. In D-Day. And I mean, that's just absolutely crazy to read all this stuff in here. I mean, it's all in here, and you guys can look up all this stuff. I mean, you get into the history behind it, settlements after Columbus. Yeah, well, you know, there's a lot of lies also. Donald Duck had a cartoon where he pays his taxes faithfully, called The New Spirit. And that's a Donald Duck cartoon called The New Spirit in 1946. And he helps him. It helps, basically the message of the cartoon is to help Americans comply with the IRS. And in 1946, Disney also made a film for public schools for sex education entitled The Story of Menstruation. Okay, basically PMS. And I mean, these are the same. This is the same company that's putting out cartoons that your children watch. You know, they bought out the rights to Winnie the Pooh. I mean, everything goes on here. They own everything. Anything and everything. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You need to look at the well, let's take a look at the assets. Okay, owned by Disney. You know, Lucasfilm. Let's just kind of go down here a little bit. I mean, blah 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 blah. The resorts, yeah, we know that. Different places around the world. We know that ABC Television Group, ABC Entertainment Group, ABC Family. They own ABC. ESPN, Disney Online. Obviously, they're going to do anything with their name on it. And looking at all these things here, I mean, there's references to Lucasfilm. You know, obviously they've been in cahoots with Columbia Pictures and Universal and, you know, Golden Oak Ranch, KABC. I mean, the list goes on. Parks and Resorts, isn't naming all the parks and resorts, and not all of them are even Disney. You know, Disneyland Parents, Hong Kong, Disneyland Cruise, Vacation, ABC Television. Yes, we get the idea with the ABC thing. I think they own everything with there. ESPN, more Disney Online stuff, mobile stuff, Marvel, comics, entertainment, Marvel Entertainment, you know, the Avengers, all them, all those superhero stuff, Marvel, even Spider-Man, Business Ventures, you know, Mervista Films. I mean, come on, look at all this. And it keeps going on and on. These, I've never even heard of some of these. Venture capital. I mean, some of it they're not going to even reveal to you. It's ridiculous. Look at this. Unsorted Animation Collectors Incorporated. Look at all this. Look at Buena Vista. Okay, they own the catalog company, Buena Vista Catalog Company. How many times have we seen Buena Vista in movies, guys? I mean, look at all this stuff. It doesn't take much to look at all this and see, you know, get an idea how much money's involved. Okay, they basically, Childcraft Education Corp, making children retail sales, 1997. Miramax, Power Rangers, and all the seasons. These are former assets. It's already said and done though with those. I mean, all the references. Anyways, they own everything. Practically everything. They own it. I mean, Star Wars, people. Lucasfilm. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg, too. I mean, this isn't even what's behind closed doors. And we're looking at Hollywood here. You can see the 666, you know, the three fingers resembling a 6, done on either eye. But Johnny Depp here doing that. Johnny Depp playing characters, very dark characters, and showing you kind of a dark, you know, side. He even said in David Letterman, you know, he was on David Letterman, he mentioned that he doesn't like watching himself because then he'll see him, he says. Yeah, I think we all understand what that really means. The studios made, you know, a lot of these movies get the round table discussions and all that. It starts at the studios. You have the rainbow here. the studios there, I believe in Burbank. We've seen that before there at the Denver airport. The rainbow, Miley Cyrus came in like a rainbow. It also sounds like rainbow, not just wrecking ball. If you listen to her song Wrecking Ball again, like the Grox has said, he did an episode on this where it sounds like she's saying rainbow. And I mean, I can see that. And taking peace out of the world, part of the New World Order. As I mentioned, Disney did buy out Winnie the Pooh, and as well as the Nickelodeons, and a lot of the others comes from Disney Studios. They're all part of it. Nice little star right there next to the writers, as the writers are writing these things, putting them into the TV shows and the movies. And in the background, you got a eye chart, ask about Illuminati. Well, trying to promote their brotherhood. And there's the Mein Kampf with Donald Duck that I mentioned, him and Hitler in the 40s. Talking about Hollywood also, Ronald Reagan, our ex-president, him and Walt were very similar. They were both high-ranking Freemasons. Both had family and relatives high up in the Illuminati. Ronald Reagan's mother was Eleanor Roosevelt's best friend, and Walt's dad was a socialist leader. Both were paid FBI informants, and both used mind control, and themselves were mind control puppets as a part of the collective. Oh, well, money and fame, I'll go ahead and sell my soul. That's not a big deal, Here's Cars. And, there's a little perversion there with Alice and the sexual innuendos in Disney. It makes me sick. Davy Crockett was actually a man in the Brotherhood that Walt picked to lie about. Walt was talking about Davy Crockett, the Demolay, the Freemason, using each other to help with their names get out there for remembering them. Caricature in Cars, depicting Owen Wilson there as the lead in the movie Cars. The caricature would be Owen Wilson's characteristics within the car. Once again, breaking the rules of the definition of caricature, which is supposed to be for non-fiction, not fiction. But it's Disney, so they break the rules. All-seeing eye, M for Mason. All the owls there in the old Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Lion King, you can see a woman's butt with the underwear bending over there where it's supposed to be the nose of the lion. And they had the word sex in the clouds there. They're part of the movie. These movies with caricatures and characters depicting actual humans, and the mixing in the Luciferian belief of mixing the human with the animal, and the bestiality behind the sexuality is pretty demonic. Wreck-It Ralph, a glitch in the system that turns out not to be a glitch, but the New World Order. The thing about dogs is that dogs get abused by Luciferians and evil people all the time. Soldiers in the Middle East shoot them. They end up murdered in that movie. 8 Below, a lot of the dogs are dead by the end. So something about the dogs, they just don't they don't like them. They like the cat, the it, the tack, the Stephen King It, the clown. Tinkerbell, fairy dust, Peter Pan, sexual innuendos. All dogs go to heaven. Well, they probably do, and they don't like that. It's been a long time since I've seen these movies, but the halo has a lot of meaning with the Egyptian Ankh. National Treasure was about Freemasons and how they're good, and how they're treasure hunters, and how they built things a certain way to have hidden things. Well, that's got a lot of truth to it, but they're not good guys. They're all worshipful master. When they're all worshipful master, worships Lucifer. So that's where we're at with that. I had a dog like this once. I miss quite a bit. Named her Cherokee. You know, these dogs, as I mentioned, a lot of them end up dead in the movie. So pretty sad. Rub the lamp. It's upside down. Something comes out. The Pipes of Pan. This was taken from the Chronicles of Narnia. Mr. Tumnus is in fact Pan. Pan is the deity that has the gift of music to draw those in, like Hermes in Greek mythology. Not to mention a lot of other mythologies in other countries depict Pan as a womanizer, a seducer. My Umbrella, that song by Beyonce. I believe it was Beyonce. Forgive me if I got that wrong. But you got the Pipes of Pan, Peter Pan, playing the you know, people being all mesmerized about Peter Pan. You know, as I mentioned before, in awe of his power and his talents. Being able to the Zorro behind him there, the fox. And the rabbit resembling fertility, and the fox resembling cunning and survival abilities. You have Donald Duck. I used to collect these comics all the time when I was a child. Soup and Crackers, Scrooge McDuck, you know, with the flute there. You know, in the last Pirates of the Caribbean, you had the sirens luring the men in and killing them. I mean, that's where a lot of this comes from, the Ariel. And the mermaids, the sirens, reel the man in and then kill him. Is the same as Hermes in Greek mythology, reeling in, you know, Argus, the 100-eyed person that became the eyes or the dots on the tail of the peacock at the end of the story. Well, you know, you've got that right there. There's a peacock, there's Argus, and there's a lot of Greek mythology right in front of us right there. The demonic possession within the music in the Pipes of Pan, luring you in with a story, makes you fascinated with the entertainment of it, the amusement. You don't have to think to really just kind of kick back and relax and listen to what they're doing. But when you look at this on a different aspect, on a different level, you can see how messed up it is, how evil it is, how overtaken these characters are representing in the cartoon. Mickey Mouse is the conductor, moving around. And as Mickey Mouse being the conductor, you'll see some characteristics there. Facial expressions, both in him and Donald and all the characters, getting carried away. You see, part of demonic possession is not caring what you're doing, even if it is out of line and all whacked out, and do what thou wilt, you know, Anton LaVey's saying. And the even the code and honor, or coat of arms saying of the royal gestures, is very similar to Anton LaVey's. So the do what thou wilt comes into play. The characteristics are, I mean, you can see how it's kind of evolving here. You know, look at the way his body position is, Mickey's body position, his shoulders being shrugged, he's looking into it. This is an old cartoon. I mean, it's very old. You know, look at him here as he changes his, he's all, boom, look at him, he's like mad, he's like, he'll turn around, he's like, sinister. Yeah, he's smiling. This is possession. This is showing him conjuring up spirits. And he's doing it through music. And just like it is in the temple and in the rituals, you know, I've seen this stuff done right in front of me, and it's an identical representation, a caricature, if you will, of realism, of the real thing, done inside closed doors in these temples, wherever it's at, whether it's in the Mormon church, the Catholicism, you know, the Catholic churches, Jehovah's Witness churches, even full gospel or non-denominational Calvary Chapel type of churches, Church of Gods, if you will. A lot of them have this kind of entity, spirit in them, these demons in them, make them conjure up more power, more energy. You didn't do it through the flute. Okay, well, you know, so much for the flute. Ah, he's got an idea. He's going to do some street magic. A little David Blaine. Chris Angel, if you will. Here we go. Yeah. Street magic. Oh, here you go. I'll crack it in half. You can have it. Ha 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 ha. These guys are possessed. Getting mad at each other. I've seen seances where people were like strangling each other. And, you know, this guy was acting just like this. And, you know, not really just caring what he's doing, just caught up in the moment. Who cares about the consequences, if any? You know, people end up dead in these kind of rituals. It's pretty sad. This is more Chris Angel, David Blaine, street magic, you know, David Copperfield, whatever. And a little more magic there, all the flutes popping. I mean, people are amused by this. This is the entertainment of David Blaine before David Blaine. Done in cartoon form. Little street magic. Using who? Donald Duck. Now look at him. His stature is completely changed. He's got a different look. His hat's different. He changed his hat. The bee goes in there and rattles him, and then he comes out of his mouth and he's trying to get it, and it's like, okay. Yeah. More magic. The powers that be. And I mean, I use this cartoon because it's a great example. It's a great example of what I'm trying to share with you guys about Disney. And it just keeps getting worse. More and more. Making him move a certain way, shaking his hips, moving his rear, getting the dance going, because something was stuck in his pants. I mean, come on. Wearing the black, well, his black ears and his nose along with the red and the green looks a lot like, you know, a most worshipful master, if you will. So he keeps getting interrupted because this bee's in his way. It's like the honeybee's in his way. Well, the honeybee resembles the Christian, by the way. It's very annoying to occultists when they're trying to do their rituals or play their pipes. To have a honeybee in the way. The honeybee's kind of like, it's considered the Christian because they, you know, they can't seem to kill the Christian, can they? No, I don't know. Let's find out. But they resemble the Christians because of the nectar, the honey they make. They produce, you know, a natural sweetener, a natural sweetness, not an artificial one. So they're kind of the restoration or the sugar of the earth, if you will, the true believers. The grace and mercy. You know, there's a lot of examples of as to why we would be considered the honeybees, the ones that are true believers in Jesus. And you can see how the atmosphere is starting to change here after the bee and the wind and the forces of nature. Okay, going back to anthropomorphic or anthropomorphism. the depiction of natural disasters in a cartoon is well explained in this particular one right here. What are they going to do about it? Well, they're going to embrace it because that's what they do. That's what they cause. You see, at the beginning of this video, Mickey is conjuring up these forces. This particular force. They knew about HARP even way before HARP was even mentioned by anybody. The weather control in the 70s, that there could not be any weather control. I don't off the top of my head remember the exact date, but for wars and stuff, that they could not use weather control on each other, but yet we've been doing that. Hurricane Katrina, you know, Japan, Fukushima, and all these different places around the world are, you know, being caused by HARP. Well, HARP is also known as a musical instrument, is it not? And this is way before, as I mentioned, this is an old cartoon. So HARP is causing the weather. The instrument. Rather, it's the music instrument or the scientific instrument. And the Christians are in the way and very annoying. But the chips may fall the way they're going to fall. And they'll land where they're going to land. And of course, this is a naked, you know, pig. Fallen pants. A lot of Disney cartoons where they're not wearing any pants. A lot of the pigs aren't wearing any pants. A lot of the swine, if you will. And, you know, I mean, we've got a good old-fashioned seantic, ritualistic, evil BS going on here. With Mickey Mouse, the sinister magician, the master of the Demolay, the worshipful master, and the pipes of Pan. Is very apparent. Now, I've seen this before. I've seen this kind of similar thing done in real life with what I believe to be actual demonic possession on stage. A British version of this, if you will, that I'm going to show you here. Mickey Mouse would be the man walking around right there on the right, the conductor. And you know, this is in front of a live audience, and he pulls a chair off of Minnie Mouse. She's like, "Oh, hey, hey, hey," and the, you know, levitation, like the storm in the Disney cartoon we just saw, speaks for itself. And I mean, I don't even say any more about it. Okay, guys, so let's kind of take a look at some of the investigative work you can do and research online using Wikipedia. And, you know, when it comes to facts and dates and stuff, it's pretty reliable from what I've done with my cross-referencing with books and other, you know, journals and whatnot. I found that I haven't really gotten into any problems. Sometimes you can look at some personal stuff that's been added in. Don't have any examples right now, but sometimes things get added in from other people. If something's not liable, Google, Wikipedia will flush it out. I've seen people change some things before on Wikipedia, and I have seen this a couple times where some things were there, and then like when I went back, I realized that that person edited whatever, it was thrown away. So for the most part, though, it's pretty reliable. It's going to give you the dates and years of different things that has happened. Well, I was looking at Warren Buffett here. Warren Buffett owns 20 million shares in Disney company. Okay, he's an American business magnate, investor. He's an elite. He's high up there, you know, CEO, shareholder. Now, what's interesting about Warren Buffett here is that He's supposed to be the third wealthiest person in 2011. I mean, you can find out some things here. He's called the Wizard of Ohama, Oracle of Ohama, or the Sage of Ohama. He's noted for the adherence to the value investing philosophy and for his personal frugality, despite his immense wealth. And you could go on with that. You can always go over here and look at the person's, CEO, Berkshire Hathaway. Now you can see that up there. And that's that. And you get into some of his early life here, and I kind of breezed through this and read it already. I'm not going to read the whole thing for the sake of time. Business career. Now here's where you kind of got to do some digging when it gets into the business aspect. And the personal or early life stuff can tell you a lot about the person too. And what I mean by that is, well, you can look at people they've been around, who they've hung out with, who they've done business with. He's not related to Jimmy Buffett. You can find personal stuff like that, so you can cross that out if someone's not related to someone just because they have the same last name. And all that stuff. So I'm just kind of breezing through this here, just kind of looking through. There's Geico Insurance. Buffett discovered Graham was on board. Let's see who Graham is. You have to find out who Graham is to figure that out. There's the Coca-Cola Company. Buffett began buying stock in Coca-Cola Company, eventually purchasing up to 7% of the company, and 1.2 billion would turn into the Berkshire's most lucrative investments, and one that it still holds. So it's still relevant today, and it's still doing his business pretty good for him. Just that one business deal, that he did back in 1988. This is how you find stuff on people, these corporate moguls, these elites, these rich businessmen, and going through some of the past here and trying to figure out stuff. In October 2008, media reported that Buffett had agreed to buy General Electric. Preferred stock operation included special incentives, stock, years following agreement. Buffett had received 10%. Divided, yeah. So, anyway, so he's made some business deals that's gotten him quite a bit of money, and you can see that very clearly here. Now I'm still looking here. Goldman Sachs on March, here's a little something. 18, 2011, Goldman Sachs was given Federal Reserve approval to buy back Berkshire's preferred stock in Goldman Buffett, and stock per day. So little relevant information for business transaction there. Personal life, yeah. You can get into some of that too. Health, politics, recognition, writings, all of this stuff. He did contributions to Barack Obama's presidential campaign. I don't need to know any more about this man to know what I think about his actions with this. Yeah, he's endorsed money to the campaign, and this is what led Obama's victory in the first place. That, and it was already decided at Bohemian Grove a long time ago. But other than that gives you a pretty good idea, I think. I'm still looking for the Disney connection here, and I'm still looking. Taxes, trade deficit, dollar to gold, investing, tobacco, coal. Well, when all else fails and you can't it's in here somewhere, and you can't seem to find it, well, you got to start going back to Google here and start looking around and see how you can find Columbia Business School. Well, I know that Columbia Pictures, it's probably not the same exact thing. And you go Warren Buffett shares, right, with Disney. And you just kind of write that in on your search engine and you try to find it. Why Disney is a great business. Well, he's got his own little video on it right here. See the connections? Buffett to Disney, all thumbs, pop history. and you can see buy Disney stock now. He talks about they talk about that there. That's not really related to Warren Buffett. Here, capital cities, fortune management, pop history, Warren Buffett's greatest legacy insurance. Buffett drops Disney stock. He drops it, huh? Well, let's find out if that's legitimate and go to it. See what we find here. So, reading this article, first of all, I like to read what I'm reading here. Orlando Sentinel newspaper, Wednesday, November. So this is for Florida. Hathaway sold half its stocks. Shares slipped. Company based in Omaha, $1 million Disney stock reporting the Berkshires report Saturday. So maybe, you know, Disney's kind of taking a little bit of a fall. You know, there's a lot of attacks going on Disney lately, considering how corrupt the company, the empire is. So you can kind of see there that kind of proves that case. As far as Warren had stock into it, he did have 20 million shares, yeah, it was monarch slave abusers, the Aksar Ben fraternity, who were exposed in Nebraska in the savings and loan scandal. If Disney had their way, every single person, 100% of all of us, would be under their mind control. Disney, you know, the truth is that they buy out as many companies as possible. You know, Miramax at one point, you know, and there's also the other companies besides the ones they've directly bought out, like Sony, that have their meat hooks in with the Disney empire as well. Looking at the bloodlines, in the 1960s, the Illuminati moved most of the MK Ultra bases into other locations. Among these locations was Disneyland, and eventually Disney World, and a lot of the other theme parks by Disney throughout the world. Now, this is a perfect cover. I mean, it is a perfect cover for them. They buy out all these companies, and they get, you know, shares in different things as well if they don't own it outright. And the money that they make is so incredibly huge. The average person couldn't even begin to count the amount of money in Uncle Scrooge's money bin. And you've got, you know, all these consumer products in cahoots in bed with Disney. The GMOs, Rockefeller. Now, you know, I mentioned before, Rockefeller, one of the Rockefellers helped out Walt back in the day. Well, you know, Rockefeller is one of the big main corporate bankers behind GMOs. The GMOs. And they're in bed with Disney. Disney is also responsible for a lot of the GMOs that we buy. You know, Uncle Scrooge's money bin. It's like endless amount of money, just swim in it. And, you know, the Masonic Order and the Masons are there. My parents were there on opening day at Disneyland. Both of my parents were. They didn't even know each other yet. And, you know, they're waiting to see you there, to meet you. It's twisted when you see what they're doing to everybody. And especially relevant children and people within society that visit Disneyland and these theme parks. They promote the RFID chips. You know, this wristband right here is an entryway into one of the theme parks. All tickets will be purchased electronically and shown and scanned electronically on the ride. So you wait in line, and you'll wait in line, and you'll continue waiting for an hour or 2 hours until you finally get the barcode scan on your wrist. Well, this just promotes eventually one day with the RFID chip being inside of your hand or your head, as it is written. So, the RFID chips are very apparent within Disneyland, and they promote the transhumanism that goes along with it. And this is no secret. The MK Ultra programming within Disney makes it very clear with how they dress, how the women dress, sometimes even the men, and how they dress with the pink hair, pink wigs. Pink has sexual connotations. It's always been used this way inside the MK Ultra world. The sex kittens, if you will. The cat versus the dogs. In the new movie Escape from Tomorrow, you see a man taking his family to Disney and being suckered in by the young women walking around all throughout the Disney park, following them around, thinking about sex and having sex with them, and almost giving in, and eventually having sex with one of the evil witches inside the theme park and behind closed doors in a hotel room, probably in the 33 Club. And it goes on and on and on about that. The problem I have with this movie is that I think it actually promoted Disneyland more than it did anything else. They would have you think, oh, it's evil, and you can't go in the ride without feeling demons and having sex, and nothing can just be... I mean, maybe this does go on behind closed doors, and it probably does. But it's so well organized and orchestrated, like Mickey as a conductor in the orchestra, that they don't get caught. And this is the way it is. They have an extreme tight guideline of things with whatever's going on behind closed doors. With this, we know enough evidence now. We've seen enough for the motives. We've seen enough of the proof and evidence that leads to the fact that a lot of this could be going on, and there are things that are, you know. But this movie I think made most people just want to like go check it out for themselves. And I really have a hard time swallowing anything that this movie has put out there about it. I think that you have to be completely out in left field to even really like this movie. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, I'm sure I'd have like a best friend that might like the movie, you know, but my opinion is that I didn't really care for it because I think that it just would make me want to like go and check it out myself. So, you know, and there's a couple scenes there where he's in like the Small World After All. And here's the thing about the Small World After All, okay? A Small World was developed for UNICEF in the 1964 and 65 World Fair. It was moved to the theme parks, to Disneyland, and it was a major feature for mind control. And you look at around there and you can see that it's, you know, loaded with mind control puppets all around you everywhere. And you're one of those puppets in the boat. That's really the only difference. They're puppets doing their robotic things that they are programmed to do as you are watching them for entertainment on the boat. So, you know, I just don't think the movie did our justice any when it comes to trying to figure out, you know, what's going on there in Disneyland. And you can see the Lion King there. This one's just disturbing. I mean, Donald Duck, this is an actual picture. I mean, it isn't a drawing, it's a picture. And it exists. So, you know, M on the plant there, Masons, Scrooge McDuck, and Looney Tunes. More conductors, you know, instead of Mickey here, it's Bugs Bunny instead with the Looney Tunes. And what's up with the testosterone levels? Them getting mad at each other, you know, fighting while they're doing music and playing. I mean, this is the behavior of demons. And anybody that's seen this type of behavior has been out in the world and either has not been aware of it or has been. This one here, you know, it doesn't even look like Walt, really. It doesn't even look like Walt if you look at this up close in the face. It does not really look like Walt Disney at all. Makes you wonder, you know, like, is he frozen? They said he's been frozen and not cremated or buried. But that Walt Disney is frozen. Well, you know, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know. We're going to end this with a couple of things. One is this old cartoon with the shadow. Now, watch the shadow of Mickey here. Watch. Okay. So they're showing you that there's, you know, in the cartoon that this is cool, you know, check this out. I'm going to play the pipes of Pan here, and you're going to watch this. My shadow's going to, you know, do what my shadow's going to do. It's cooperating right now, but little differences in the shadow. This is a pretty old cartoon right here. But I took my children to Disneyland, and I wasn't woken up out of the Matrix a couple years ago. I always believed in God and Jesus and everything, and that's I think what got me through, and I know that's what got me out of it. But a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, I took my family to Disneyland in Southern California, you know, the SeaWorld experience as well. It was pretty crazy. Here's a clip of my family, and I modified the picture a little bit so that you won't see it. But look at the shadow behind Mickey, okay? Looks like a goat head facing down at the stomach. Now you can see how it licked her. Now that the guy is whispering in her ear. Okay. And down the little girl looking down. Now it's actually in the little boy's ear right now. The goat is talking in the little boy's ear. There it is, whispering in her ear and touching the little girl. It's looking at her ear. Now it comes back up. Now it's back to the goat ear. Mickey's ear is thin in the shadow, so it looks like a goat in the background. You can see where it's at there. And there's the man. Yeah, a little disturbing. Okay, so this disturbs me actually beyond belief. I mean, this is my family here. You can see the background, how it looks like the ear and the goat facing downward, looking down. Okay. Now, as he starts to move toward the little girl, you're going to see what he does. He signs book. Now look at the guy. The guy's head, and it goes right up to her ear. Right here. And look where the hand goes. The hand's right there, and he's whispering something in her ear. And in the actual video, you can see a reaction from the children when this happens too. It's like they know, but yet they don't know. It's really messed up. I mean, you saw the cartoon with the shadow, Mickey's shadow, and that there are things with shadows all over Disneyland. This is just one of many things that I captured. Some of the things I cannot put on. There's just no way that I'll put them on YouTube or any public post for that matter. So a lot of these characters, you know, they sign books and they whisper incantations into the books, and the spells are being casted on these books that you buy and have them autographed. That energy is going into the books. They act like they're kissing it, but really what they're doing is they're whispering an incantation. Here's another one right there in the crotch and whispering something in her ear. Okay? The shadow is. The shadow's whispering something in her ear. Okay? Comes back up, and it's going to go down now the goat nose. Down to her as it starts wrapping it up. The thing that was disturbing about this is the simple fact that I had no idea, but yet I felt kind of weird when I was in that room on Mickey Mouse's house. I didn't feel right. You know, my family had a really hard time walking around waiting in lines, and I'm sure a lot of families actually experienced this kind of dismal lifestyle over at this park. So I don't know, I don't know. I just know what I see and what I felt, and there's some things going on there with the shadows, no doubt. Definitely is. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mad Hatter, and then I'm going to end with one last thing about the Blue Lodge and the Freemasons along with Disney. Let's take a look at Mad Hatter. And the Mad Hatter disease, or Mad Hatter syndrome, is commonly used name for occupational chronic mercury poisoning among hat makers whose felting work involved prolonged exposures to mercury vapors. The neurotoxic effects include tremor and the pathological shyness and irritability characteristics of erythricism. Well, if you want to look at what that is, you can just check that out here. Neurologic disorder. It affects whole central nervous system as well as the system complex derived in mercury poisoning. It's pretty messed up if you think about it, But then you look at the Hatter, okay? And this is where it gets interesting here. Now, if you read this here, it'll show you that the Mad Hatter is in fact a glass looker, a scryer, a occultist that looks through crystal balls, basically, through the looking glass, right here, called Hatta, through the looking glass. There's a fictional character in Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, and the story sequel Through the Looking Glass. He is often referred to as the Mad Hatter. Through this term was never used by Carroll, the phrase mad as a hatter. Predates Carroll's works as the characters the Hatter and the March Hare. Again, the rabbit resembling fertility and sex. Are initially referred to as both mad by the Cheshire cat. Let's look at that. This article is about Alice in Wonderland, rather used Cheshire cat. Is a fictional cat popularized by Lewis Carroll in Alice in Wonderland, known as a distinctive mischievous grin. Well, there's the cat right there. Okay? There's the cat thing. With both first appearing in Alice's Adventure in Wonderland in the 7th chapter titled The Mad Tea Party. So, this is sinister stuff, dude. The Mad Hatter. I mean, the Mad Hatter disease or disorder is alone. They should have named it something else. Should have named it the same thing as a disease. And the tea being served. Time for tea. And doesn't get much more messed up than this. It really doesn't. So I thought I would share that with you guys on the Mad Hatter. With the cat too, where have we seen a hat with a cat? That's right, The Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that came out of this, and none of it was good from what I can see. So, Thought I'd share that with you guys because it's relevant. Disney is in the Illuminati family bloodline. As you can see, many others here. And it's a fact that they keep record of everybody. Names on tickets, pictures, signature books. They take pictures of the children while you're taking pictures. If you have not noticed that, a lot of times they're taking pictures of your children and keeping record of them. They keep a profile on the ones they're interested in as initiates into the Blue Lodge of the Freemason Order, the Masonic Temple, going back to the Demolay. So finding this out was really upsetting to hear, and this was information that was leaked from ex-employees as well as ex-Brotherhood members of the lodge. You know, a lot of these people, children and adults, don't even know that they're being initiated and documented in this way. They walk into the parks with their family, they go through the motions of getting the food and watching the parade every day and the fireworks every night. And let their children, you know, go up to the characters and sign their books or give them a hug or whatever, but what they don't realize is that if they find an interesting individual, no matter what sex or age they are, they're going to document you and put you in their collective, their Borg, the collective, if you will. And this has been going on since opening day over at Disneyland. It's a nice, lovely, ritualistic gown that Minnie's wearing there. Very proper and Wiccan, and a little bit of Mormonism there at the same time. You know, and George Lucas and Lucasfilms and Star Wars being a big part of Disney, and there's a lot of Luciferian in that. Walt Disney and the whole empire of Disney is a parasite. The empire leeches on the very fabric of who we are. It's not just where we've been, but mostly about where we're going in life. To be held back is to realize the depression of oneself because of the reflection you might see. Are you looking back at yourself of who you are and truly who you are? Or is there a person looking back at you that despises what you are and where you are and what you became? The caricature that has been engraved in ourselves, of ourselves, from the moment we allowed the mouse ears to replace our own. To follow the rabbit into the hole is to surrender all of who you are. Waiting in lines for hours upon hours for a few minutes of a thrill is following and falling down the rabbit hole. And like the Matrix, taking the red pill will only lead to your strings that are being controlled. They're being controlled for you. Well, maybe you're a marionette. Maybe you're not. And we're all, under their order, marionettes with the all-seeing eye of the Empire. The New World Order and the Masonic agenda is very apparent inside this Luciferian empire. From Walt and Roy Disney and its roots with the Masonic Order and the Order of the Demolay, to the present date of all the buyouts and owning everything they can, is why I believe Disney is the ultimate parasite.
stretches to the sky. Faithfulness is like a mighty mountain. Justice flows like the ocean's tide, and I will lift my voice, worship you, my King, and I will find my strength in the shadow of your wings. Your love, oh Lord, reaches to the heavens. Righteousness stretches to the sky. Faithfulness is like the mighty mountain. Justice flows like the ocean's tide, and I will lift my voice, worship you, my King, and I will find my strength in the shadow of your wings. Love, oh Lord, it reaches to the heavens. Righteousness stretches to the sky. Faithfulness is like the mighty mountain. Justice flows like the ocean's tide.